Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Sideline Access Podcast, where I am your host, Sky. Today, we are with
Skylar Scarnecchia.
It's such a pleasure to have you on here. I kind of just want to start and, talk about like your early life, your early childhood. What was it like growing up? Do you have any siblings or anything?
I was a pretty active kid growing up. I had an amazing family. I have an older brother. I was the athletic child though in the family. So my brother had the brains and I had the athletics. But I've played basketball since second grade. I've done soccer, softball, really any sport like you name it, and I've played it. Couldn't guarantee you I was good at all of them, but yeah.
Awesome. And so, of course, I would say the biggest thing that I feel like you're known for now is like your online presence that you've created based off of your basketball career. So, if you don't know, Skylar has been playing basketball. He plays for the women's adapted team, right, for Alabama. And you've been on the USA, is it the wheelchair basketball team as well as like an alternate, right?
An alternate, yes.
So, how has that kind of been like your basketball career growing up? When did you first know that you wanted to play?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I've been playing basketball since second grade, and around my fifth grade year of playing basketball, I started realizing some pain in my foot. And it was funny because like I pushed through it, and my parents were like, "Well, let's go to the doctor and get it checked out." And I said no at first. I was like, "No, I want to keep playing basketball. I don't want to stop just in case something was happening." My fourth grade year, my bad. And then I was playing soccer going into my fifth grade year, and just the uneven ground was so painful in the bottom of my foot. And it got to the point where my parents were like, Sky, we need to go to the doctor and check out what's going on. So we went to a foot and ankle doctor, and they ended up saying, you have plantar fasciitis. So we're going to have to put you in orthotics, go through physical therapy. So during that time, I was like, sitting through physical therapy and they were massaging the bottom of my foot, being like, oh, all those knots are in there. It's so tight, like it's getting smaller. We feel it. And nothing was getting better. I was just continue being in excruciating pain. So my mom was like, there's something else wrong with my daughter. Can we please get an MRI and find out what's happening? So we did. And when the results came back, it showed that I have a tumor in the bottom of my foot the size of a golf ball. And they were like, it's for sure going to be benign. Like, we've never seen this before. There's not going to be anything to worry about. So we were like, okay. But my mom always kind of knew that there was going to be something deeper than what it was. And so I got a biopsy, and the doctors ended up coming in and saying, you have stage four synovial sarcoma cancer in the bottom of your foot, and we're going to have to start treatment as soon as possible. So within 2 weeks, I was going through chemo, and so unfortunately, sports stopped at that point. And after a few rounds of chemo, they ended up coming back saying, you, like, the chemo's not working. You're going to have to get an amputation, or we can go with radiation. But if we went with radiation, you would end up having like a claw foot or a club foot, and it just would have been a dead limb at that point. So they said, with all the technology nowadays, you're going to be best case scenario with a below the knee amputation. And, as a 10-year-old, I handled it pretty well. I just said, hey, that's one less foot I have to clip toenails on, and like moved on with my life. And but the day of my surgery, it finally hit me like I'm going to be falling asleep and waking up without a part of me that I've had my whole life. And always through that whole time, I was so concerned, like, what if I never get back to playing sports the way I was? Basketball's always been the sport I was good at, and that stuck with me, and it was my passion. And I just really had to like trust God's plan that everything was going to work out in the long run. So after my amputation, I went through physical therapy. And while I was going through physical therapy, we incorporated basketball, which was shooting like three pointers, little jump shots, free throws. And it wasn't pretty at first, but I eventually got there. And within a year, in my sixth grade season, basketball season, I was back out playing on the court. And I was not the player I used to be, and I didn't play as much. I wasn't as fast as the girls. But the one thing I always had was being able to make my shots and the grit I always had during it. So, I went to the coaches after my sixth grade year and was like, what can I do to be a starter? What can I do to work my butt off to get to where I need to be? And they like told me all the lists and I said, okay. So I went home and I worked on it with my dad and, always putting shots up in the driveway. And within my seventh grade year, I was starting back on the team and helped win the championship game that year for our seventh grade team as well. So um, I continued on till sophomore year of high school. And when I got to high school, um, my basketball career didn't go how I wanted it to. And it ended up leading to me being the only one not on varsity filming for my team because the coaches told me that they just needed a film girl at the end of the day. And everyone moved up but me. And that was so devastating to hear because we went into the exit interviews, all the coaches could say was, "You're doing so good. There's like really no critiques. You might not be as fast, but you're good in defense, shooting, a great teammate, everything." So it's like I was really confused. Why am I the only one not getting moved up? And it all comes down to at the end of the day, you don't want to get beat out by the one-legged girl in politics in a small town. And so I just had to come to terms with like my love for the sport kind of died at that point because of coaches. And so my sophomore year, I had an interview with a local news channel. They heard about my story and they interviewed me. And that ended up catching attention of a Paralympian. And she reached out to me and said, I know you play stand-up basketball, but is there any way you would like to try wheelchair basketball? And I was like, no. Like I went to my family, I was like, I don't want to. I run, I jump, and why do I want to limit myself to to a wheelchair? Not knowing what it truly was going to lead to. And so my parents really was like, Sky, like you need to stop putting your pride in the way of something that I feel like God is opening a door to. So then eventually I just sat down by myself and I was like, okay. And I sent a text from the basement to my mom and I said, hey mom, I'm gonna try wheelchair basketball. No promises I'll like it, but I'm going to. So the Cleveland Cavaliers up in Cleveland, Ohio, have a program for wheelchair basketball, and I ended up going. And as soon as I sat in that chair, my whole life changed, and I fell in love with basketball all over again. It was just in a different way. And it was so different, like trying to learn like the game and different rules and also like a different style, learning how to dribble in a chair and maneuver it. But the one thing I always had still was my shooting and like absolutely loved the sport, but I knew I could get good at it. So I eventually like went to the University of Alabama wheelchair basketball summer camp, and that's when I knew like I'm going to be here. I want to work for my dream of being a college athlete. And sure as enough, it did. And I just basketball has been such a huge part of my life and to leading into content creation and showing like the ups and downs of being an athlete, being long distance from my family, but also following my dream that I'm working so hard to get to.
Of course. Thank you for all of that. That is just awesome. I feel like you've gone through so much that a lot of people, of course, we all go through our own things, but the way that you've handled it with such like diligence and care and just, grit, like you said earlier, to get past it all. How has kind of your family now at Alabama helped you, like your basketball family there?
Yeah, oh my goodness, my Alabama adopted family is so amazing. Like, if I wouldn't have been here without them seeing something in me, especially my coaches and the athletic director of our apartment, like, I wasn't the best basketball player coming into Bama, but they said we see something in her and we want to give her a shot. And if they didn't take that chance on me, I don't know where I would have been with this sport and like my career with basketball. So, and also, I think finding coaches that make you fall in love with a sport again helps so much. And they just are so encouraging. Along with my teammates, I'm learning from some of the greatest players I feel like in the world that are Paralympians and just USA team members. How can you not like just be in love with the team, when you're learning from the best? And also, it's just a family. Genuinely, I have a relationship with every single girl on the team, and I feel like every single person in the program, and it's just so personable, and I just love them.
Of course, and that's awesome. I also like to try to find, those little hidden things about a person that really makes them them. And you seem to speak a lot about your faith. So, as someone who also is very strong in faith, I kind of want to ask you, how did you allow God to help you navigate those, transitions where you felt like maybe you weren't good enough or you didn't know it was next, especially when it comes to switching from, going to wheelchair basketball, something you'd never done before.
Of course. Well, I think when you go through such a life-changing thing at such a young age, you have to find something to grasp onto. And I grew up in the church, and my thing was faith in Christ. And I knew that, like, I could question every single day, why, God, why did you choose me to go through this? Why did you choose me to suffer? Why did I have to lose my leg? Why couldn't you choose someone else? But even at a young age, I knew deep down there was a reason, and God spared my life for that reason. And it's to bring, advocacy for childhood cancer and to make something so dark bright. And I couldn't be more blessed, honestly. And I always like say I would do this all over again. I would go through my cancer journey all over again because I wouldn't be who I am today without it. And so going through those transitions, feeling like helpless and so in such a dark state when I felt out of love with the sport that brought me out of a dark place as well. I knew like God is transitioning me into a new part of my life and I have to trust his plan. Even though it's so scary that you have to like just trust into something that you don't know like if it's going to happen. I just knew all along that God was walking beside me and holding my hand and was like, just trusted me. And I always say, like, I just think, I don't know, I really just couldn't have done it without God at the end of the day. And there's so many things that He made so abundantly clear to me that I just have had to have discernment within myself and with Him and be like, okay, I'm like, hands are off the wheel onto you. So,
Yeah. And I think too, something that, a lot of people sometimes can struggle with is giving everything that they have to God. And, like you said, taking your hand off the wheel and allowing Him to make that journey for you. Have you ever found yourself in a place where it's really hard to let Him take the wheel? And then you find later on, you're like, okay, now I see what you're doing.
yes, 100%. Like when I had to step away from my basketball team, stand-up basketball team, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do after this. Like I wanted to like finish my like senior year. I wanted to be the first stand-up college amputee basketball player for like just like a D3 college. And I was minimizing myself just for like a D3 college, not knowing that God was going to be blessing me with a D1 college, a full-ride scholarship in at one of the best universities I feel like you can go to for a sport, especially the best program in the nation for this sport. Um, and so now it's all makes so much sense. But in that time, I was like, where are you leading me?
Yeah, of course. And do you feel like kind of outside of basketball, you have so much going on, right? And so how has it kind of been in like the friendship department? Is it easy to make friends or are you always just so busy that it's kind of hard to find that personal time? How is that?
Well, I'm very extroverted, so I always say like I can like make friends wherever I go, standing in a grocery store line or just in the bathroom line, like literally wherever I'll make friends. But I would say my basketball team are some of my best friends, and I think sometimes like it's hard to like be around the same group all the time and like make sure those relationships are healthy, but I try to like just keep them uplifted and upbeat and I feel like those are some of my healthiest relationships. But outside of basketball, I talk to the kids in my class and I've made some great friends here at Bama, along with my hometown friends that I'm so far away from, 13 hours. Always FaceTiming, always talking, snapping, whatever we can do to keep that friendship alive. So
Of course. How many more years of college do you have left?
I have 3 more, so I'm going for 5 years, but I'm just a sophomore right now.
Okay. And kind of what is your like, do you know kind of what your plan is once you finish, what you want your life to look like?
Yes, so again, God has made it so clear what I've meant to do with my life, and I love content creating and everything to do with that, but it's nothing that I'm going to be going into. But I want to be a child life specialist for kids in hospitals, and so I'm studying human development and family studies with the concentration of child life. So I like when I was in the hospital, I had a child life specialist and fell in love with her. She was one of the people that really kept me going in the hospital when I was so lonely and like so bored all the time. And I was at a church retreat in high school and I was like, should I go for journalism, communication, PR? because I love talking to people. I love the camera. And God was like, no. Like I literally heard him say, no, you're going to be a child life specialist. And I was like, again, okay, like I wanted to do something else, but you're guiding me this way, so I'm gonna trust you.
Awesome. Do you still kind of keep in contact with her today?
Not really. I see her Instagram posts and she'll like mine and stuff, but we everyone goes like their separate ways eventually. But definitely will be reaching out when it comes to
How did you get into content creation? What made you do that?
I don't know, honestly. I try to like look back at one specific moment that has led me here, but I've just always been in love with like acting and modeling, and I used to do so many auditions, like being an aspiring actress, but eventually I just was like, it's not like I can't. My heart wasn't in it no more, but I still love modeling. And I just like loved making musicals and TikToks, and I think that played a role into that. And then when I was like going to Bama Bound here, Alabama, I made an OOTD because the University of Alabama is so known for their outfit of the day,
Yes.
the sorority girls. And if I wasn't being in a sport, you'd probably see me in a sorority. So I just threw out like a video and I ended up shouting out my prosthetic leg and was like, hey, my prosthetic leg's from Hanger Clinic. And it blew up. And like, that's when I was like, okay, I need to like get into this content creation and like PR, like companies started sending me product. And it's like, this is fun. And I fell in love with it kind of right there. And I was like, this is something I want to continue through with, especially here at Alabama. There's like endless amounts of opportunities. So,
Do you feel like there's one specific moment that you can think of where you got to use your platform to inspire other people?
this is a little aside from my platform of social media. It's more of my platform called it's called Go Noodle. And when I was in eighth, seventh grade, I auditioned for this dancing, like K through fifth grade movement program that's like in that like schools all over the world. And I ended up landing it. And we made three different videos, and so many people just started reaching out to me. Like it has millions of views on YouTube. And a school from India, like a teacher was like, "Oh, we love you over here," and the kids love your like robot leg. And I was like reading through the comments of the YouTube videos, and everyone was just like, "The girl with the robot leg is so cool." And I think that just really touched me because I was like, I didn't know I was making an impact with that, but also I had a teacher reach out to me about a girl in her class that had a prosthetic leg. And she always sits back during those videos and like doesn't do anything and it was very quiet. And she ended up saying when she saw me in the video, she got up and she started dancing.
Aw.
And that was one of those moments where like you like cry and you're just like, okay, I'm doing something. Like this was all for something. Like you impact someone. And I just thought that was like one of the most impactful moments for me.
Of course, that's awesome. And I think that's kind of, like you have the personality for it. I can tell right now you're such a bright light and you're a genuine person. And I think that's just kind of, from outside looking in, it looks like that's what you're called to do is to inspire people and help people and use your story to kind of, show people that they're capable of anything they want to do. Like, don't ever let anything limit you, of course. And so, what's kind of some advice that you'd want to leave with everyone?
This might sound so cliche and like so basic, but genuinely, just always smile through it. Think on the bright side of everything. Be a half glass full person because if I was just so negative through everything and decided to just stay in my bed and sulk a leg, sulk losses of my life, like I would not be where I am today if I didn't push myself to get out of that bed and lean on Christ to say everything's out of my hands and it's in your hands and I trust you. Um, because there's always better days ahead. And I know, again, I like it's such a basic saying, you probably hear it everywhere, but when you start to focus on those things you are always hearing, it's so important because that's what really affects your life.
Of course, yeah. It's kind of like one of those things where your mindset is affected by, or your outcome is affected by your mindset. Like if you're always feeding negative things to yourself, then, you're going to start to see negative results. Like, the world can be a tough place, and it's really important that you lean on yourself and God, of course, to encourage you and keep you going and keep you pushing. Because if you can't pick yourself up, who else is going to? So,
That's
I think that's
everything. So,
yes, absolutely. So I think that's really inspiring, really encouraging advice to give everyone. But this has been a pleasure to talk to you. You have such an amazing story, such a great personality, and I just really appreciate the time that you've given me to talk with you.
oh, thank you. I was so glad we got to do this. I was like, when you reached out to me, I knew this was something I wanted to do, but our schedules just like weren't aligning. So
I
then when you
know.
texted me the other day, I was like, oh my God, I was just thinking about her literally hours before. So I am so glad we got to do this.
Yeah,
Really
yes,
soon.
of course. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Unfortunately, the ending got a little choppy, so I'm so sorry that we kind of lacked in that department this week. But please be sure to stay tuned. We have a new exciting episode coming up next week that I can't wait for you guys to see. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, to follow us on Instagram. And if you or anyone else would love to be interviewed, I would love to have you on. So please feel free to reach out to our email address in the comment section below. Have a good one, guys. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.